This is Mike. Mike is the luckiest guy I know. We used to play together at the playground where we made friends with the older kids. Mike's mother is a loving woman who makes him breakfast in bed every morning. Mike has a great job. He works at the top modeling agency in town, which he loves. Mike is the luckiest guy I know. One day, Mike was walking to work when he found $1 million on the ground. The very next day, Mike quit his job and took a holiday to Hawaii, which was his lifelong dream. Unfortunately, on his holiday, Mike accidentally cut his finger when he was having dinner. Mike had to be hospitalized. Mike is the luckiest guy I know. When Mike returned home from his holiday, he was broke. He had spent all the money that he found. One day, when Mike was jogging in the park, which he does every morning, he came up with a great idea. So the very next day, Mike grew a tree which grows money in his backyard. Mike is the most ingenious guy I know. Now that Mike's a trillionaire, there's only one thing that was missing in his life: a soulmate. So the next day, Mike went out and asked out the first girl that he saw. Barbara, who was the lucky girl, immediately said yes. It was a match made in heaven. Mike and Barbara were a perfect couple. Mike was a cool guy, and Barbara, whose personality was fun and outgoing, was the perfect match. 3 days later, Mike married Jessica, his new girlfriend. Jessica gave birth to a beautiful baby boy whom grew up to be a handsome young lad, and they lived happily ever after. Mike is the luckiest guy whom I know. Relative clauses are used to identify people and things or to give more information about them. They act as adjectives and are hence called adjective clause or adjectival clause. They are subordinate or dependent clauses and cannot be standalone sentences. They begin with a relative pronoun who, whom, whose, which or that, or a relative adverb when, where or why. There are two possible forms: relative pronoun or relative adverb plus subject plus verb, or relative pronoun or relative adverb as the subject plus verb. Here are some examples. He works at the top modeling agency in town, which he loves. Which refers to things. Mike's mother is a loving woman who makes him breakfast in bed every morning. Who refers to people. It's a subject pronoun like he, she, and we. We use who to ask which person is the doer of an action. Hence, we use who to refer to the subject of the clause. Jessica gave birth to a beautiful baby boy whom grew up to be a handsome young lad. Whom refers to people. It's an object pronoun like him, her, and us. We use whom to ask which person is the receiver of an action. Hence, we use whom to refer to the object of a clause. However, whom isn't used often today as it sounds unusually formal. Instead, we just use who to refer to both subjects and objects of clauses. For example, Jessica gave birth to a beautiful baby boy who grew up to be a handsome young lad. This is also correct. Barbara, whose personality was fun and outgoing, was the perfect match. Whose is the possessive form of who and which. We use it to find out which person or thing, something or someone belongs to. This whose is not the same as who is. Mike went out and asked out the first girl that he saw. In informal language, we can use that instead of who or whom. He had spent all the money that he found. We can also use that to replace which. We used to play together at the playground where we made friends with the older kids. Where refers to places. He was my best friend when we were in school. When refers to time. This is why I love Hawaii. Why refers to a reason. Relative clauses can be used as the subject of the clause. For example, Barbara, who was the lucky girl, immediately said yes. They can also be used as the object of the clause. For example, Jessica gave birth to a beautiful baby boy whom grew up to be a handsome young lad. Some relative clauses identify or classify nouns and tell us which person or thing or which kind of person or thing is being referred to, or give us essential information about them. These are called defining relative clauses, identifying relative clauses, or restrictive relative clauses. For example, Mike is the luckiest guy whom I know. We can use that instead of who, whom, or which. Mike is the luckiest guy that I know. In defining relative clauses, there is no comma before the relative pronoun. Also, we can leave out relative pronouns if they are the object of the relative clause. For example, Mike is the luckiest guy I know. These clauses are called reduced relative clauses. However, we cannot leave out relative pronouns if they are the subject of the relative clause. For example, Barbara, who was the lucky girl, immediately said yes. This cannot be reduced to Barbara was the lucky girl, immediately said yes. Other relative clauses do not identify or classify nouns. Instead, they give us more information which is non-essential about a person or thing that is already identified. These are called non-defining relative clauses, non-identifying relative clauses, or non-restrictive relative clauses. For example, when Mike was jogging in the park, which he does every morning, he came up with a great idea. In non-defining relative clauses, there is a comma before the relative pronoun. Also, we can't use that instead of who, whom, or which. For example, when Mike was jogging in the park, that he does every morning, he came up with a great idea. This is wrong. And we can't leave out the relative pronoun to make reduced relative clauses. When Mike was jogging in the park, he does every morning, he came up with a great idea. This is also wrong. If you've enjoyed our video, please visit our website at umonzu.com for more videos, and subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking the subscribe button, and like, comment, and share our videos. And make sure you tell your friends and colleagues about Umonzu.